It was a questionable trade by you.
Welcome to Takeology with your three boys in the lab so you can do the cooking. Hopefully we're having a good day. We got me, Alex Houston, your host, and the Matt McDonald in the building. No Avery, but it's okay. How are we doing today?
Doing good. Glad to have you back on the pod. Hope the vacation was good.
It was good, man. I've traveled the world just to be here today. You know what I mean? Almost got stuck in another area. Another conversation for another day. I'll have to tell you that
That's,
after the pod. Didn't get to
that's
talk too much,
classic.
but we love our adventures, dude. You know what I mean? We spent a little bit too much cash and then didn't have enough to go to the taxi back, so we had to figure out a way, and we made it. Thank God. So it is what it is. That's hey, you gotta have fun, dude.
You always do this to yourself when you go on vacations.
Live it up or don't live at all. You know what I mean?
I guess that's true. It'll be a good story.
Exactly. Exactly. Well, what's been going on, man? Football's been a little crazy, huh?
Yeah, my Chiefs finally took a loss. It was bound to happen. It honestly might make us better. You never know. We're getting healthier, so just look towards the future. Patrick Mahomes is not going to throw a pick on the first play of the game very often,
I don't know.
and that pick, as much as Mahomes saves us every game, that made us just play catch up the entire game, and that's just not the game script you want to be in when you're playing Buffalo. They're legit a good team. I know I like to make fun of them a lot because they're September champs, but they're this is probably the best team Josh Allen's had since he's been in the NFL, which is kind of wild because coming into the year, we kind of thought that it was just a bunch of nobodies on this team.
Yeah.
But I mean, their defense is legit. Adding Amari Cooper like they did, they've got a deep shot now. And then Shakir, say what you want about him, he's such a good over the middle target. So they're a good team. James Cook, he ran for 20 yards but had 2 touchdowns. So I mean, we stopped him. We just couldn't in the red zone. So it's all right. We got Carolina this week, so we'll get them. We'll get tuned back into shape.
Maybe, maybe not. They didn't even have Keon Coleman or Dalton Kincaid, so
Yeah.
that was kind of
Dal-
interesting.
I will say Dawson Knox is such a good. I mean, he's a good tight end. He just gets no credit just because he's the second man there. But he legit is a pretty good tight end. And with Coleman out, we finally saw Curtis Samuel do some stuff,
About
which
time.
we've kind of been waiting for all year. He was kind of one of those guys you drafted in the late rounds of the draft thinking he might turn into something, and he hasn't. But if Coleman continues to miss out, I mean, I might at least keep an eye on him because there's like 6 teams on buys this week, and it's
Yeah.
big teams. It's like the Bengals, 49. It's a lot of
Atlanta, New
yeah,
Orleans,
Atlanta.
I think.
Yeah, and with what Taysom Hill just did, he's going to leave a lot of people tight endless. So, yeah, it's a big week for buys. So, waivers are going to be very important this week, and they're not necessarily. It's not necessarily a great waiver. So,
No, it's
you're gonna
not.
you're gonna have to really work for it this week.
I'm thankful for these bye weeks though because in our redraft league, I play a guy that most of his team is gone.
Yeah.
So my chances just shoot right up because he has no answer for the guys that are out. So I'm hoping I can win this week. Another chance at playoffs. I'm right there on the edge of both of our leagues for playoffs. So just wanted to throw that out there. Okay, all right.
I believe in you. I believe in you.
Praying on my downfall out here. And our co-host, I just wanted to throw this out there as well, since he's not here today. He'll probably listen later. Our co-host is 1-10. I had to give him another loss there. I had to throw him. He's at the bottom of the barrel, but we still know what we're talking about. Okay, so our records don't show our expertise. Although 1-10, it's still tough out there. It's a little tough out there.
Hey, I'm having a good year. So listen to me, not this guy.
There you go. Yeah, we're both scraping there. Actually, Avery doesn't have a bad dice team. Did you just beat him though?
Yeah, I absolutely creamed his soup.
We
Wasn't
both
even
did, huh?
Yeah, it wasn't a competitive day. Uh, Alex about started a fight in our group chat because he's talking a little too much crap. But in all fairness, Avery was the 1 seed last year, and he talked a lot of crap to us. So
That's right.
what goes around comes around, I guess.
Got to dish it a little bit there. where we can at least, you know.
Healthy competition. It's good for
Exactly.
everything.
Exactly. But I'm sure out there, if you've listened to us, you're doing great. Hopefully, I don't know, maybe. Bo Nix, I'm so excited to talk about Bo Nix. I can't even hold it in almost of how crazy this guy's popped off. But
That
we'll start. Do
that is
what?
a number one failure of mine. I mean, that dude, he's legit. He might not have a very high ceiling, like just as an overall quarterback in the league, but he's consistent. He's a good starter for you every week. He just might not have the level that like Josh Allen or Lamar has for fantasy wise, but
Yeah.
he's gonna. I mean, he threw for what 4 touchdowns last week.
Yeah, it was
He
crazy. 308 yards or something like
he tore Atlanta up. Well, he threw
that.
for three and ran for one. I mean, this
Yeah.
this guy, he's a stud.
I'm pretty sure I said something like that at the beginning of the year, like possibly better than Caleb Williams at the end of the season.
Hey, your record might not show it in fantasy, but your predictions for a couple of these guys, like Chris Godwin, he was on an unbelievable pace
It
until he
was.
got hurt, and you can't predict that. And then you predicted Bo Nix as well, so your record might not show it, but you had some pretty good predictions this year.
I didn't get the guys I wanted, sadly. Or well, I mean, I didn't trust him that much, I guess. But it is what it is, you know. All right, let's do a little lab report here. Nothing crazy. A little bit of news. We've been out for a little bit. I think since what it's been a week or so, but we're back. And I don't know if this is big news or not, but to me it is because it affects Malik Neighbors. I think, and you kind of tell me what you think about this as well. I don't know if it hurts him or helps him, or maybe it doesn't do anything. But Mr. Danny Dimes is given the back seat on the New York Giants. We now have the Tommy DeVito. Right, he's Italian, right? Is that right?
Yeah,
Right, spaghetti man, spaghetti kind of guy. All right. Do you think that Tommy DeVito helps this team, like in terms of being better, or especially Malik Neighbors, or do you think it's kind of like it doesn't really matter because Danny Dimes is that bad? You know what I mean?
I I honestly think it's just kind of a horizontal move. Like
Mm,
Danny Dimes he's obviously better than Danny DeVito, and the only reason he's sitting or got benched is because in his contract that they signed, he's got a $25 million bonus pretty much that's going to kick in if he ever gets injured, and that's what they're trying to avoid. If he gets hurt, they're going to owe him 25 that they won't if they just bench him. So and the fact that they have Drew Lock as the backup quarterback and they're putting Danny DeVito in, it really tells you that they're pretty
yeah.
much tanking. They say it's for football reasons, but they paid Drew Lock $5 million for 1 year. So they obviously thought he could come in and compete for the job. And for them to just hand it over to DeVito, who I mean he had some okay games last year, but he's not a quarterback that's gonna propel anybody for fantasy. He's not going to make the guys around him better. He averaged last year five. He got sacked 5 times a game, so he's obviously going to make mistakes. I think this is great for DSTs in fantasy. If they're going up against the Giants, no matter the defense, I would obviously pick them up because they're going to get a lot of sacks, and he is very. He's going to throw a lot of picks. Yeah, I mean he just takes chances that you probably shouldn't take, and he's not a high quality starter in this league. So I would definitely target him. And I think this Neighbors is still going to get targeted, but I just don't think they're going to be very high quality targets. Kind of like what's going on with CD Lamb right now.
Yeah, Mr. Rush.
I mean,
Yeah.
he threw the ball 55 times, and I mean CD still didn't have a great game. It's terrible if you have any of the Cowboys players.
What a year it's been. Seriously, to think of like the top talent we thought would be there just hasn't been, honestly. And I will talk about that as we go through the game recap because there's some guys out there that I have to kind of be like, oh, you know what, I missed on this guy, and I should have known. You know what I mean? I wrote him short, but this guy popped off. Yeah, I agree with you. I think in some ways Malik Neighbors had a rapport with Daniel Jones, so this is going to be a little bit of a hiccup, maybe a few games for Malik Neighbors. But at the end of the day, like they're going to feed him the ball because he's the future, and they want to develop him in that offense, anyways. I really honestly would have rather seen Drew Lock play for this team because personally, I mean, as a guy from Missouri, I respect Drew Lock. I like the guy. I wish he would have had a better chance playing, and I think he could be better than what he is. I loved the flashes he had at Seattle when Geno was out. So I personally would love to see some Drew Lock, although I don't think it's a winning answer. But it would just been better in terms of like getting him the ball, and it's a better ball to catch. So yeah, I don't know. I get it, but I don't. Like the Giants paid Daniel Jones. It's like why not play the guy? Just ride it out. But I understand if he gets injured, you pay him more. So it is what it is. On top of that, man, the Jaguars just have had a rough year. Okay, they've gone through the ringer. Not only is Christian Kirk out, right? He's gone for the season. Brian Thomas, he was fine. He was a little banged up for a minute there. Evan Ingram didn't play for 6 weeks, right? Travis Etienne, I keep wanting to say Trevor as a Georgia fan, but Travis Etienne was banged up for a few weeks, and now they no longer have Gabe Davis. And Trevor Lawrence is out too. I forgot about that. Mr. Mac Jones is last week. This is just a bust all around for this team. Mac Jones, even this game, I think this game this last weekend sums up the Jaguars season, 52-6. Right? I mean, what do you do? Their number one pick, at least projected right now to get the number one pick in this draft coming up. Well, what do you do as a Jaguars? You think you just give up at this point?
It's a tough showing. Because at least with the Giants, you know what their plan is. They're going to go for a quarterback. With the Jags, they just paid Trevor Lawrence top 5 quarterback league
Yeah.
money,
4
and
years, right?
yeah, it's a 4-year contract, and he's top 5 in pay. He's a good quarterback, but I think he needs the right system around him, and it just hasn't. Injuries have plagued them. Their defense has plagued them. I I think they're either going to get the 1 or 2 pick, depending on Trevor Lawrence coming back, because they're going into the bye, and Trevor Lawrence could come back. We don't really know if he's going to have surgery or not on the shoulder, but it's something to watch. I I would assume they just go defense. Their offense has players. It's not that their offense is bad. Their defense is just terrible, and they need to upgrade their line some more as well. But as far as the rest of the season outlook, if Trevor Lawrence doesn't come back, none of these players are really playable. They're going to be down so much, and that just limits ETN's opportunities for the game. And then Mac Jones is just he's not a starter in this league. We thought he might be a capable backup, but he's not even that. Evan Ingram, he's going to get a bunch of targets, but they're all just short yardage. Yeah, I mean, he had, let me see. So he had 7 targets. He caught 5, but only had 28 yards.
That's awful.
So he's not going to be a guy that's going to bust for you, like put a goose egg like Tucker Kraft did this past week. But he's not going to offer you any real value as either. So it's tough. And Brian Thomas, he's a heck of a player, but Mac Jones just he's not good at the deep ball, and he's not very accurate anyways, just over the middle. So I think Mac Jones being the starter on this team pretty much makes everybody unplayable unless you just need a dart throw for a week. Like this week, you would love to have some of them, but every team's on bye, including them. So
No.
I don't think any of these guys are going to be quality players when it comes to the playoffs, unless Trevor Lawrence comes back. But that's looking more unlikely every day. So
Yeah, definitely. It's a unique. I thought they would be a team that completely turned around this year with what they had, what they brought in, the things that they changed. And Trevor Lawrence, I mean, he hasn't really shown us. There's moments, I guess, he looks good, but he has so many weapons and he hasn't got it done. And the defense isn't the worst. I mean, it's not. It's worse than it was last year. It's not the greatest. You know what I mean? I don't
I
know
mean
what they're ranked.
they lit up 52 points, so
I
they're
understand.
pretty terrible
That is pretty bad. Somebody else let up a 50 to Detroit as well. Who was that? Like
this
two or
year.
3 weeks. Yeah, 2 or 3 weeks ago.
Go ahead, I'll check for you.
Yeah. My statistician here, right? No, but yeah, I just don't know what to think of the Jaguars, and the future is unique as well to see how they're going to do something with it. But it does look like they need to just pick up a defensive guy because you can't have that many weapons. I mean, they go get Travis Hunter, you know what I mean? Like that'd be crazy. Travis Hunter, Brian Thomas, all of them out there. But we'll see. I don't know if Trevor Lawrence can even do it.
Is
Um,
the Titans.
okay, and they actually have a good defense. So,
Yeah.
but I don't know. I don't know. We'll see how it goes.
It's just so they're gonna have a new coach next year, so
Yeah.
they're gonna have to reacclimate to that. I mean, they started 7-0 last year. This is a team that can have great starts. It's just Trevor struggled with injuries. All the players around him have struggled with
Yeah,
injuries. They haven't had a good coach there. That's one thing I'll give him a break for is he legit hasn't had a good coach. I know Doug Peterson has won a Super Bowl, but that was with a loaded Philly team.
yeah.
And I don't know, they just haven't surrounded Trevor with much talent besides a few offensive players. So I would at least like him to get a capable coach in there and maybe a little better defense and see what happens.
I agree with you. I'd like to see him succeed, even though he was a Clemson Tiger. Is what it is. This weekend, Jonathan Brooks is scheduled to debate. Oh, dang, that was a little bit of a struggle there to debut. Wow. So he'll be playing this weekend. I'm kind of excited to see this guy. Haven't got to see him much. Even in college, he had some injuries, right? That's what he came into the league with, ACL. So he should look good, I think. But he's a rookie coming in. Chuba Hubbard, they just extended him, which I thought was insane, anyways. But I mean, do you think he pops off against this Kansas City Chiefs defense? Think he's the answer to beating you guys?
Absolutely not. This is a
Okay.
terrible week. It's a terrible week for him to make his debut. But I do think this is going to impact Chuba. Now it came a lot. It came a lot later than I was expecting, and
Yeah.
that kind of hurt me. I'm not going to lie. But you kind of saw it earlier in the season. They were trying to use Miles Sanders as a rotational back as well, and he's terrible. He's out of his prime, so that didn't work. So Chuba got everything. But when they were trying that, Miles came in on third downs because he's a better pass catching back than Chuba. So I really think this is going to be a situation where Chuba Hubbard gets the first two downs, and then Brooks will come in on third downs where they might need to check it down to the running back.
Hmm.
And I mean that's only one down, but that's going to be a lot of valuable touches, especially if they get in the like long third and goal, and Jonathan Brooks vultures a touchdown away from Chuba. I just think it's now turned into kind of a murky backfield where you're not going to feel super comfortable. And also they're fighting for the number one pick in the draft.
Yeah.
So I don't think they necessarily want to win either. So they have Bryce Young starting at quarterback. We all know who he is. So I don't know. I think it's going to eat into Chuba's work a little bit. I'm not saying you can't play him, but I think it definitely downgrades him from a running back one to a low end two, um,
Wow.
just because he's not going to get the full workload. And it's a bad team. You typically don't like good. You don't like players from bad teams. So I think this is going to downgrade him.
I agree. I think they'll ease him into it for sure. Like I think it'll be a slow process because he's a rookie. But then again, I mean, I could be very wrong. Where if this guy just looks ready to go, and they get him out there and get him going for the future. I mean, I wouldn't see why they wouldn't at the same time if he's the next step kind of thing. Get him used to the league. I forgot to think about this, but it just popped up. Another running back in this same game could be playing. Mr. Pacheco could be back this next week. He was scheduled to come off IR and he's been practicing. Do you think? I mean, I know you're a Chiefs fan, right? So, do you think Pacheco just they give him back to that workload, or because Kareem Hunt's done so well, you think it's like a split, really, or even like a 75-25 kind of thing?
I honestly think it's going to be a situation where they really ease him into it. Like I think this game against Carolina, he might not even play. I think that they're definitely going to activate him to the 53-man roster, but it's a situation where we nearly have the one seed in hand. We just have to separate from the Bills a little bit, but we already have a one game lead on them. So this is obviously a pretty easy game to win, anyways. I just don't see him coming into this game and getting the full workload back or even half of it. Kareem Hunt been he's been a quality player since we
Right.
picked him up, and I just don't think it's worth the risk to play him at his full workload until we kind of ease him back into things. So it's the reporting on it has been that it's a coach's decision. He's healthy and ready to play, but it's a coach's decision on whether he's going to play. So we're just gonna have to watch it throughout the week. If he does play, it's going to be in a limited role. So I think Kareem Hunt can still be played. Um, but the week after Carolina, it's going to get pretty dire for Kareem Hunt. he's not. He needs the full workload to be a quality fantasy player. Just because he doesn't offer much boom when he's in the game, he's just he runs through the tackles and that's about it. So I think you can play Kareem Hunt this week, but after that, Pacheco's gonna eat into that work just more and more.
I agree. I'm ready for him to come back for dynasty purposes. I could use the man personally.
Oh, the Chiefs can use him. I mean, Kareem Hunt, he's done well, but he just doesn't have the same athleticism or anything. So I'm excited to see him back. I'm not slandering Kareem Hunt. I see your comment. He's been great for us. Pacheco's he's just a better player. I mean, Kareem Hunt's late into his career, so I'm excited for him to be back.
I agree with you. Welcome back to the league, man. We'll see how that goes. All right, this game we're going to start with some Monday Night Football. We're going to go over the games. Hopefully, we can get through all of them. I think we can. A lot of good games this weekend. Texans versus Cowboys. Okay,
Not a good game.
uh, this one wasn't that great, right? Yeah, the Cowboys are just atrocious this year. But one thing I did want to just for sure highlight, and I know you'll talk about a few more things. But I have got to take back my thoughts on Joe Mixon. I love the guy. Like I've had him almost like the last few years when he was on the Bengals, and he's been consistent and solid. But I thought this year the move to the Texans, it just wasn't going to look good for him because they had so many weapons, and it was a whole different new system, and they were a passing heavy team. But I was completely wrong, like 100% wrong. This man is a dog. I'm talking. I don't know how many 100-yard games he's had, but at least like 6, right? Almost in a row too, and he's had multiple touchdown games. But just his last game, 20 carries, 109 yards, 3 touchdowns. This dude is a league winner almost, really, to be honest to me. I don't think he's the number one running back because I think Derrick Henry's still up there. But Joe Mixon has been a steal of this draft. And anybody at the end of this year is going to look back thinking, what the heck was I thinking not picking up Joe Mixon? So I just wanted to say that to start off. Like, I need to take back my thoughts on this man. I should have stuck my guns and trusted the guy, but it is what it is. And on top of that, this Cowboys team is just cheeks. So I'm surprised they didn't start Trey Lance. I mean, Cooper Rush, sure, but I mean they got the guy, so why not try it out? What do you think about this game as a whole? I don't even want to
Wait,
talk about
so
CeeDee, So
yeah, watching this game, it hurts my soul because I obviously had Joe Mixon, and that's one thing that I can hang my hat on. I was confident in him, and I drafted him, and he was very good for me earlier in the season. I really thought he was going to struggle with injuries. Once he got that first high ankle sprain, I thought it might linger. He's an older back, and he's getting such a big workload. I just didn't think it would be sustainable. And I'm not trying to just wish anything upon him and say he's going to get hurt here soon, but that's the reason I traded him away. But looking back, he is such a good player,
dude,
and I don't think anyone really expected him to get the workload that he's getting. But you give this guy 20 plus carries a game, he's gonna be putting up numbers like this.
yeah,
And going back to what you said, he has had 100 yards 4 out of the last 5 games. I mean, he is
crazy.
legit. He's getting a lot of the passing work as well, which is
Yeah.
propelling his stats up even more. And just to further your point, he's number one in running backs for this year, and
Okay.
that is just yeah. No one expected that. I
No.
don't care who you were. I drafted him, but I wasn't expecting that. I was thinking maybe top 10, and it's just crazy because this year we've seen older running backs be so good.
Yeah.
The top 3 right now is Saquon, Derrick Henry, and Joe Mixon. Those are 3 older backs, Derrick Henry and Joe Mixon especially,
Yeah.
and it's absurd because we thought it was going to be Brees Hall, Bijan, Jameer Gibbs, which Jameer and Bijan have both had good years. Brees not so much, but just seeing these old backs play as well as they have has just been awesome. I know I traded him away, but seeing him have this success, it's so cool to see. He had 3 touchdowns this game. He's a heck of a
Crazy.
player. And just going into a little more of the Texans, it was kind of crazy. I don't know if I've ever seen this, but 2 players on the Texans had the exact same receiving line. Nico Collins and Tank Dell both had 4 receptions for 54 yards. So that's just kind of odd. You don't see
It
that
is.
normally. But Nico looked great. I know he didn't have a great fantasy day, but he was on limited snaps, and he also had a 77-yard touchdown called back. I would just like to say I'm tired of seeing these illegal motions or illegal formations. I'm tired of
Yeah.
seeing it. They've taken away so many touchdowns over the year, and I would just love for that to be out of the game, or
Yeah.
at least call the play dead. They let it play through, and then you have a 77-yard touchdown like this game, and then they just call it back, breaking people's dreams. But put that aside, CJ Stroud has been a huge disappointment. I mean, we've highlighted it over the last
Yeah.
couple podcasts. He is just where he was drafted in the it was either late fourth or early fifth. It just he hasn't returned on where he was drafted, and that's tough to see. But he has been without Nico Collins, and without Nico Collins, he's just a different player for fantasy. So he might be a guy that someone's been mad at, and he dropped him just out of anger. You might be able to pick him up for these last couple games and play him. But on the Cowboys side, what is there to say? Rico
Yeah.
Dowdle sucked this game. You kind of thought he was gonna take the reins of this offense in the backfield, and he was terrible. You saw Deuce Vaughn get carries in this game,
Yeah.
and that's a player that shouldn't even be on the field. He's like, where is he 5'6"?
But
He's
he's
just
5 foot something.
yeah,
5 foot
he's
6.
not a
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, he's not a guy that should be getting carries in this
No.
league. And then Cooper Rush, he threw the ball 55 times. He had 354 yards. But CeeDee Lamb, I don't think the upside is there that was there with Dak. I mean, he's going to be the focal point of every defense just because this offense cannot run the ball, and it's going to lead to not very good stat lines for him, which sucks because he was drafted so high. He came into the season with the new contract, Dak with the new contract. Everybody was excited, and
Not no
now
more.
Dak's out for the season. They suck.
Yeah.
It's just it's terrible. Um, I I was going to ask you, would you? I know the trade deadline's probably passed for most leagues, but would you have looked at trading CD? I mean, that's crazy with how quality of a player he is, but without Dak, he doesn't offer the same upside he did. And there's going to be weeks where he just sucks, kind of like last week, with Cooper Rush being the quarterback. So I didn't know what your thoughts were on that.
Personally, I love to trade in general. Like, and I feel like you know that it's just something I just love to do. Right?
Yeah, I know.
The risk is there. Like, it could be huge. It could be whatever. I enjoy it, but I honestly would think about trading CeeDee Lamb like now, right? Like last week, I'd be like, yo, as soon as I knew Dak was done, I would have thought about it because Cooper Rush can't get the deep ball like that. I mean, sure, CeeDee Lamb. I was thinking about this. Sure, CeeDee Lamb is going to get the ball, right? But I don't think CeeDee Lamb is the caliber receiver Justin Jefferson is. That even if he's double covered, he's going to get the ball or find a way to find the open field. And I just don't think he's kind of like that. I mean, he's top. He's up there, top 5, guaranteed. But I mean, he's kind of limited in terms of compared to Justin Jefferson and on the team. He's the only guy, right? At least the Vikings have some people to spread the ball around: Aaron Jones, T.J. Hawkinson, Jordan Addison. But I just don't know what you would get out of it. To be honest with you, I wouldn't trade Jamar Chase. I wouldn't even want to give Tyreek Hill almost for it in some ways because just after this last game against Las Vegas, he kind of looked legit. So I don't know what you'd even get back for CeeDee Lamb that would be worth the trade based on the volume that he gets. I would definitely consider it, but it's like, I mean, who do you think would be a reliable, legit piece to that trade to get back? You know what I mean?
Yeah, I don't know because I think a lot of those top 10 guys people are not going to trade.
Yeah,
So I think you'd have to go out. You'd probably have to get a package of players like two kind of quality players, like maybe Darnell Mooney, a couple
yeah,
guys like that. I mean, Darnell's been good this year, but
yes,
you expected CD to be a top 5 receiver. And it's not even that he had a bad stat line this game. He had 89 yards or around there and 8 receptions. The, I just this team is not good, and I wouldn't want to tie myself down to a bad offense, and that's what it's going to be. Now, the only bright side I kind of see is he's going to have a lot of volume thrown to him because,
yeah,
like we said, he's the only thing they got. But I don't know. They're going to be down in so many games that they're going to be throwing the ball a ton. But now Jake Ferguson's hurt, so you got a backup tight end in, so that's only going to bring more focus to CD. So I don't know. I just wouldn't be excited about him, and that's not what you want to be feeling coming into the home stretch here. So yeah, Dallas sucks.
I don't even think Trey Lance would be an upgrade to help CeeDee Lamb be better either. Honestly, I
No,
think it would hurt him more. I'd rather have Cooper Rush in for CD's value than Trey Lance personally.
Trey Lance is a worse passer. He
Exactly.
might help the offense because of his rushing ability, but he's a much worse passer.
It's just Dallas is screwed. It doesn't matter what way you put it. They're up a creek, man.
Yep.
All right, next game. I'm loving the rookies this year. It has been a fantastic year for some of this class, at least in my opinion, because a lot of them have gotten opportunities where like they can actually thrive on a team. Chargers versus Bengals. What a game, by the way. Justin Herbert, kind of to me, okay. Justin Herbert's a sleep waiver wire target, in my opinion, especially with a lot of the bye weeks this week. I believe they're not. Who are they playing? They're playing. They're not playing a good defense.
I'll check for you.
I think is it Baltimore?
Yes.
Yeah, and their secondary is cheeks. So Justin Herbert to me is a good waiver wire pick this weekend. J.K. Dobbins didn't look like he was going to have a good game. I think it was like fourth quarter, and he had like 8 fantasy points, but turned it around. Got another touchdown or two, maybe 2 touchdowns in that last quarter. I can't remember. But I wanted to talk about Lad McConkey and Quentin Johnson. Okay, not Josh Palmer, although we had some high hopes at the beginning of the year, specifically Avery. Wish it would have turned out, but it is what it is. Lad McConkey is looking sneaky good, dude. This offense is starting to turn around. And Quentin Johnson, I said it earlier in the year, and I think it's going to continue. He's a touchdown end zone target. And I think that's the only thing that obviously makes him relevant, kind of. I mean, he had 2 catches. So his fantasy points only came from a touchdown. The Bengals, I'll let you talk about the Bengals because this receiver group, the T. Higgins ride, I know Avery, if he hears this, is going to be fuming because T. Higgins, he didn't have him last week. He could have started him this week, but it's like, why would you start T. Higgins? And then he pops off, dude. So it's up and down. But Lad McConkey, I mean, tell me what you think about this guy. 123 yards. Sneaky rookie. I think he's going to continue to pop off. I really do.
Yeah, he's a quality receiver. We knew that coming into this year. He's one of those guys that's going to compete to be. I mean, he's obviously not as good as Malik Neighbors, but he's going to be in that conversation for one of the better receivers out of that class this past year. And he's such a good route runner.
Yeah.
We saw it at Georgia, which you especially because you're a Georgia fan, but he never had a high level of volume. But when he was on the field, he was such an impact player. The
Yeah.
only downside of him is the injuries. He's kind of made of glass, but hopefully that kind of changes as the years go by. But he is such a talented receiver, and with this Chargers team, they have such a good offensive line that Justin Herbert has tons of time to throw the ball. So I just think when you've got a quarterback like Justin Herbert and the quality of receiver that McConkey is, they're going to be a duo that's going to be very fruitful for fantasy. And I think you've kind of seen it come along throughout the year. He's a rookie. It takes time to develop, and he struggled with injuries. So I really think he's a guy that is going to propel some teams during this playoff run. He's definitely a guy you can play in your flex. I mean, just
Yep.
on the volume alone. And this offense is looking pretty good. They put up 34 points, and I know the Bengals defense is pretty bad, but this is a Chargers team that can score a ton of points, and that's what you want for fantasy. And when you have such a good quarterback, I think McConkey can be a good player for the rest of the fantasy season.
They're 7-3. I feel like I did not realize, although we've been watching football all year, I didn't realize how good they are in terms of record. 7-3
Well,
is
yeah, early on in the season, it was a nasty like
yeah.
they ran the crap out of the ball, and no one really liked watching it. And they haven't been good over the years. They don't get a ton of coverage over the air, but I mean, Harbaugh is such a good coach. You knew this team was going to be good, and they're only going to get better. I mean, he came in and they're 7-3 in his first year,
Yeah.
and they're probably going to be a Super Bowl caliber team in the next couple of years. So it's only going up for the Chargers.
Their receiver core is young too. Really, in all honesty, like all across the board. Will Disley though, hey, 4-6, 80 yards, 1 touchdown. I feel like the Chargers will be a good waiver wire. This, I mean, obviously you're not going to get Lad McConkey, but start them against Baltimore. Their secondary is not very good. We've seen it just this week how much they got thrown on. But on the Bengals side here, Joe Burrow, if you got him in the draft, you're happy. I mean, specifically Matt here on accident. Dude is kind of been popping off. Although it's not produced wins, at least in terms of fantasy, it's helped him out. But T. Higgins and Jamar Chase, dude, what a duo there. Not much to say about them because I know we got a lot of games. But do you start T. Higgins next week? Do you put him
Yeah,
in?
dude, it baffles me that people don't start him when he's playing. If he's gonna play the game, he's gonna put up points. He is such a good
He's elite.
receiver. I started him against Avery in Dynasty, so I know that made him even more mad. Uh, but I have Jamar and T Higgins both in Dynasty, and I'll play them both every single week. They honestly make each other better. I think when you see both of them on the field, they take the attention away from each other, and it's just such a good duo, and it doesn't, like you said, it's not resulting to wins in the NFL, but this offense is amazing for fantasy.
Yeah,
And before we moved on, I didn't want to overlook Chase Brown. This guy has been fantastic the past couple weeks. I mean, he's going to end the season like in the top 10 running backs, and he didn't even have the job for all year.
it's crazy.
Dude, he's so involved in the passing game, 5 receptions for 57 yards, and he's getting all the work on the ground. He had 22 carries this game, and they brought in Herbert from the Bears. You thought that might kind of impact him? No, it has. He hasn't even touched him, and I thought it kind of reminded me of like an Eckler. He's such a good pass catching back, and he's getting all the rushing work as well.
Yeah,
He is just he's one of those guys that, like we always talk about every year, there's a guy you pick up off waivers, and he may have been drafted, but in a lot of leagues he wasn't. But he's a guy that's just he's made so many teams better, and that's all. I mean, what more can you ask for from a guy you just picked up for nothing?
he's doing great for your fantasy team, no doubt. I know Tanner's got him, and so it helps. It's helped him propel to being a better team. But yeah, this crazy year. It's been flipped on the head on how what to look for in terms of fantasy, which you can't really guess that. But this game I'm about to talk about, I got to watch flying through the air. So that was kind of fun. Seahawks versus 49ers. I tuned into the Chiefs game too, so don't worry. I watched both of them. I was going back and forth. But
Thank you.
this game was kind of fun to watch, not gonna lie, for a while there. Geno Smith got it done. I mean, he may not do that great sometimes, but he throws the ball a ton and he gets a lot of yards. Kenneth Walker didn't have as good of a game, but that guy runs like a workhorse too. He reminds me of Pacheco. He gets on the edges and just finds a way to get 5 or 6 yards. But Jackson Smith and Jigba, I think he's still on your team. Did you start him?
No,
You didn't? I, Finally, again, we're seeing him come to light here. This guy needs to get the ball. 10 for 11, 110 yards. Against some good secondary, really. The 49ers are not a bad defense. They're not to be slept on. DK Metcalf's first game back, and he didn't look bad either. So you're good. You're glad to have him back on the field. The Seahawks team pulled it through against the 49ers. What I did, I think this is a positive, and you kind of can talk about it too. Um, and there's a whole nother piece to this 49ers team that's ridiculous. But Christian McCaffrey, although like the fantasy numbers not that great, I think it's only going to increase because he is so versatile in this offense. Kyle Shanahan knows what he's doing with Christian McCaffrey. He makes his offense better. He just looks so good. I mean, I know only 79 yards, but it only will get better. This Seahawks defense really just plays deep to where you have to play short on him. And for some reason, Brock Purdy was not giving the ball to Christian McCaffrey in those checkdowns. I didn't really know why, but they were just trying to throw the ball deep. But talk to me about Mr. Third and Jawan, baby. Just fill
dude,
me in here.
he's so good. He's got to be the best third receiver on a team there is.
Yeah,
And honestly, with how Debo has struggled, he might be the number one receiver on this team now.
yeah,
And him and Brock Purdy have such a connection together that he's going to be a guy that is going to win people leagues this year because you picked him up for nothing, or if you traded him, you probably traded very little to get him, and he is honestly a great receiver. And with how Debo has struggled, I just think he's going to have all that. He had 11 targets this game. I think he's going to continue that level of getting targeted every single game. You saw him targeted in the red zone as well, which is huge for fantasy. And if Kittle's out, Jawan's going to have a day. Kittle didn't play this game, and you saw what it led to for Jawan Jennings. Um, just a touch for you, since you traded for Christian, he's definitely easing his way back in. He hasn't lost a step. I think a lot of people were nervous when he hasn't came in and just scored touchdowns like he did last year, but he hasn't lost a step. He's still a quality guy, and he's still heavily involved in the passing game, even if it's not to the level you want. But he's going to get a ton of receptions, and he's going to get all the work on the ground. I think people were kind of scared that Jordan Mason might eat into his work, but it hasn't looked that way since Christian came back. So I think you can be pretty confident in Christian. This was a game where they were just throwing the ball a ton, so he didn't have as much work as he would. But I think Christian McCaffrey is going to be a great play for the rest of the season. And like you pointed out, old Jackson Smith, he is in the good graces again. I just here I'll pose this to you because I just looked it up. What do you think he is overall for receivers this year? Because
Like
I think what do you think he is ranked? I think it's going to surprise you where he's at in fantasy points.
I want to say like anywhere between 20 and 30, right? Like that kind of range. To me, it would seem that way.
Yeah, see, that's what I would have thought too. He is ranked 12th.
Really?
He is 12th in fantasy points at the position.
That's actually
And
insane.
dude, it's insane. It's been so quiet that you haven't really noticed.
Yeah.
But he'll go from games where he just blows up, and then he has consistent games like 8 points, 7 points, 6 points. He's
Receiver
been
12.
yeah, he's been consistent. But the past 2 weeks, he had 16.8 this past week, and then the week before that, he had 34 points.
My
Like,
goodness.
and I know for the 34-point game, DK was out. But even with this game, DK was there, and he was still heavily involved. And if Gino's going to throw the ball this amount, it looks like Jackson has finally taken the wide receiver two on this offense, and Tyler Lockett's kind of getting phased out. But with how much attention's on DK Metcalf every single game, and they have a quality running game as well, I think Jackson's going to be the beneficiary of a lot of those targets, and he's going to put a lot of yards up. He's not a super good red zone target, but he's going to put up yards, and that's what you want, receptions and yards. And I really think he's going to do it for the rest of the season. And I'm excited to have him, especially with the injuries to Trevor Lawrence. So Brian Thomas is kind of out, but I think Jackson Smith is going to be good for the rest of the season, which is wild to say after he's been such a disappointment for so long.
That's crazy. Receiver 12 though is just unreal to me.
Dude, it blew my mind. I was just
That's
looking, yeah, because I was like, dang, I didn't start him. So I clicked on his profile to see how many receptions he had, and above his name, it was like 12th ranked in fantasy points. I was like, there is no way. I've had this guy on my team all year. I know he's not, but he is.
we thought receivers were super deep this year, but
They
really
are
they're kind
not.
of scarce. Yeah, it's kind of a scarce room to sit in for
There's,
those.
there's been a lot of injuries, which has helped
Mhm.
him. But I mean, he's played all season and been pretty consistent, so that's part of it. But if he's going to have receptions like this, where he's getting 10 receptions and then 100 yards, you're going to play that every single week. Now, it's not going to be to that level, but Geno Smith chucks the ball.
He
He's
does.
he's gonna throw 25 plus times a game, and I think a lot of those targets are going to go to Jackson.
That boy throws the ball deep. I'm talking insane. He ran it in though, didn't he?
Who?
Did Geno Smith run it in for the? Yeah, I said
Yeah, he did.
it
Yeah,
was
he
a
did.
long 25-yard touchdown or something like that. It's crazy.
Jackson got a carry too. Just
Really?
saying, dude. They're involving this guy.
Mike McDonald's starting to understand he needs to use the boy. I hope.
Yeah, and the Seahawks have been the past few games. They've been disappointing, but it
Yeah.
was good to see them finally get a game back. And man, oh man, Brock Purdy continues to prove us right. He he. I just don't know what to say about him. he puts up yards, and then people act like he's the best quarterback in the league, and then he comes out and barely scores 17 points. So
I
they
will
act,
say,
they act like he's got no weapons either. He's got one of the best running backs in the league.
yeah,
Juwan Jennings, heck of a player. It's just
Debo,
stupid. Yeah, Debo,
Debo,
Debo.
Debo, Debo. I mean, he was 21 for 28, and I guess that's good, right? But like, he didn't win, so it doesn't matter. You gotta win games to be a good manager, to me, in my opinion. But I don't know. It's a rough season for the 49ers. Uh, I think they'll get better. I don't know. Jawan
They're
Jennings is crazy, but
they're basically out of the playoffs.
yeah,
I mean, they're 5-5, so they at least have to get to 9 or 10 wins, and that might not even get them in the playoffs. So
yeah.
I don't know. They have one of the toughest schedules remaining. So I just don't think it's a very bright future, especially with how many injuries they've dealt with. Debo's always hurt. Kittle's now struggling with hamstring. McCaffrey could get hurt at any minute. It's a tough team because they're so old. I think
Yeah,
Jawan Jennings is the only guy you can really trust.
they're Jawan, baby. I love it. Well, we've got a lot more games to go, so I'm gonna. I know we're not gonna get to all of them, so I want to talk about some games that had some like highlight players, right? Of just like what the heck. Um, Obviously, I mean we know the Vikings won. Uh, Cam Akers was the star there in terms of fantasy points. Justin Jefferson had a small week, but I don't even want to talk about the Titans. So I want to jump to this game solely because I can't not talk about this guy. Not that it was a great game, but a few highlights before I jump to that. Taysom Hill popped off. Okay, this man should be a waiver wire target this weekend or this week. It's not the weekend anymore. You got to go pick this guy up just because they're on a bye. So no, you don't. Never mind.
I was about to say it's tough because
But I
everybody's
mean, you want
struggling
him.
at tight. Yeah, I mean, if you're truly struggling at tight end, pick him up. You might lose this week, but he's such a valuable player. This you were a little nervous with the new coach in the system,
Mm,
but he loves him, and if he's going to get this workload, pick him up.
heck yeah, dude. And on top of that, I was gonna say I don't want to say this, and you be the opposite side of this position because I know you will be. A waiver wire pick, honestly, is Anthony Richardson. I hate to say that as after I dropped the guy, and I'm not going to go get him because I hated the ride. But he finally completed more than 50% of his passes. He was 20 for 30. He had two touchdowns on the ground. I'm pretty sure. Let me fact check
He
myself here.
did, yeah, he did.
Okay, and he had a touchdown through the air. Threw real well against a good defense too. Even though the Jets suck, right? They won this game, and I know you don't want to hear that because it affected your parlay there. But he
That's fair.
finally looked like a fantasy relevant quarterback. So he's a waiver wire pick this weekend. I mean, would you agree?
I would just caution people because the first week of the season he was a top 3 quarterback in the league
Oh,
as far as fantasy goes. Everybody was so excited, and then he was putting up terrible performances.
yeah.
So I mean, this might have been a reality check getting benched and then coming back in. He actually made some quality throws this game, and I don't think anybody thought he was even capable of doing that. So I would pick him up. I don't disagree with you. He's just got a tough schedule coming up.
Yeah.
He's got the Lions next game, which their front is just crazy good.
Oh,
And then he's got the Patriots, and then he has the Broncos. The Broncos are arguably top 3 defense in the league. And then you think it would get a little easier. They may be a bad team, but the Titans have a good defense, and that's who
mhm.
they're going to play. So it's just a really tough stretch. So I would I would pick him up if you're really hurting, but if there's like Bo Nix out there, which he may not be, but if he's out there, pick him up. There, Justin Herbert, he's been neglected and put out on waivers.
Tua.
I would play him. There's just a lot of players that in our league, Patrick Mahomes just got picked back up. So yeah, I know it was by you. He's looking great now, but I think there's other options out there besides Richardson. But if it's a 12-man league, I would pick him up.
Yeah, yeah. Especially if Superflex, bro. I mean, Superflex is crazy. Whole nother
Yeah.
level of quarterback. Um, but we'll talk about these last few games. Lions, we'll touch on it real fast just because I know it's something. They're just a unit. You're starting everybody on that freaking team. Love me some David Montgomery. Shout out to my boy for helping me this weekend. 23 fantasy points, I think. Just this whole Lions fantasy team. Amon-Ra St. Brown's a receiver 2 through 11 weeks. It's crazy. They finally look like the team to beat. I understand the
Yeah,
Chiefs. I mean, but they look like the team to beat. So may
if
see
they
them.
can if they can protect Jared Goff from other rushers, dude, he's a great quarterback as long as he's protected. And then their running game is so good. David Montgomery is the 10th rated or 10th in fantasy points, and then Jameer Gibbs is 6th in fantasy points. It is absurd that they have two top 10 in the same backfield. That is absurd. And then Jameson Williams, he's going to be good for a deep catch, sometimes a deep touchdown. So he's a guy you can play in your flex. And then Amon Ra, there's not much to say. He's so good. The only guy you're disappointed in is Laporta. Uh, there's just too many mouths to feed, and that's just how it's going to be. So you can still play him though. There's going to be a game where he gets the touchdown, so
Yeah.
you can play everybody on this offense. Jared Goff's scary though because sometimes they only run the ball. So if the touchdowns don't go his way, he's just not going to have a huge week.
Man, what a team, though. All right, this is what I really want to talk about here. Mr. Brock Bowers. Is he he's tight end number one, but is he the best tight end in the league right now? Not fantasy put aside. Is he the best tight end in the league right now?
Yeah, I this is really tough for me to say because I'm a huge Kelsey guy. Um, I think
His numbers, he's already better. I can guarantee you that.
yeah, he for sure is. I think when the playoffs come around, Travis Kelsey's going to kick it back into his old gear and be the guy he is. But as far as this regular season goes, there's no argument. He's the best. The only guy that might have an argument is Trey McBride. He's been a great tight end this year. He just hasn't had the touchdown production. But I don't think you can say enough good things about him. He slipped in the draft, and that's on all of us. We should have known. He's the only guy in this offense. He's going to get everything, and he's so talented. So in reality, he should have went higher. That was a mistake on all of our parts, but he probably is. I think he's going to finish as the number one tight end. Cade Otton's kind of
Crazy.
slow. Yeah, Cade Otton slowed back down, and I mean, there's just not much competition unless Trey McBride goes on a run here. But yeah,
Man,
I think it's easily Brock.
the dude had 126 yards and a touchdown. They even
Yeah,
got
I
him in
know.
the game.
I played him. I know.
Sorry, my bad. Didn't mean
No,
to
I'm just dude. Just a sidebar here. Alex Roden's team. Every player. So I listen to fantasy footballers, obviously, and every player on his team was mentioned in the studs this week. And dude, I was listening to that podcast and I was just fuming. I was like, this is so frustrating.
over and over.
Yeah.
That's tough when they're just swinging right.
His
You know what I mean?
entire team,
Yeah.
everybody that he started got a touchdown. His entire team. It was absurd.
You're still in the playoffs though, so
Oh yeah, that's not a problem. But me and him,
unless you
no,
lose out. Listen,
there's
hear
no
me out. I've
there's no
looked at
chance.
this. If you lost out and I won out and Emily won out or John won out, you can be out of that thing, son.
There's no chance. My team's too good
It's
to do that.
possible, Matt McDonald.
Anyways, put that aside. It's tough when every player that he started gets a touchdown.
Yeah.
There's not much and some had multiple like Amon Ra. So there's just nothing you can do about it.
No. On this Dolphin side against this game, I mean, although the Raiders lost, I looked stupid leaving Tyreek Hill on my bench. I'm thankful I won, even though I started Ridley just based on matchup. But the Dolphins, I think, finally are looking like they once did. Right, Devon A-Chain, 73 yards, a touchdown. He got some work in the air, 18 fantasy points, and half PPR. And Tyreek Hill finally had a touchdown again. My God, it's been too long, and he looked at least relevant. So, I mean, this Dolphins team, you can kind of begin to trust him a little bit. Maybe not Jalen Waddle. I'm out on him really for the rest of the year, to be honest.
I was
Oh,
about to say that was one of the guys that I kind of called my shot on this year. And man, I got lucky and I got to trade him away, so that's not a huge deal. But he was a guy that I thought was going to come in and really, I mean, a couple of years ago, he was a top 10 receiver in fantasy football. So it's tough. It's not all his fault because of the injuries, but he is just the addition of Jonnu Smith has kind of taken Waddle out of this offense, and as well as Odell Beckham. There's too many targets to go. There's not enough targets to go around. and Hill's going to get a ton. And then Achan has just been so good. I played him as well, so just another knife in my back. But I think you can pretty much trust everybody on that offense besides Jalen Waddle.
Yeah.
And then Raheem Mostert, it's at least worth mentioning that he has been completely taken out of this offense, which is sad because he had 20 touchdowns last year. It was a great story, but their rookie running back, he's taken over Mostert's carries, so you can drop Mostert, and I would honestly look at dropping Waddle as well. With us coming into this back stretch of the season, you need to be picking up players when you have guys on bye. You sometimes want to roster two defenses just to look forward. It's just it. I don't think he's worth a roster spot when he hasn't had a good week, and it doesn't seem like all season. So I would feel comfortable just dropping him and saying goodbye.
I respect that, honestly. Just the way that the rest of the year looks, I would agree with you, honestly. Um, yeah, just weird. I'm thankful that it's kind of turned up though. Cooper Cup and Puka Nakua both balled out this weekend. That was good to see. Um, Packers, Bears, Christian Watson got the work this weekend, which was kind of interesting. The Bears, the Bears suck. I thought Caleb Williams was going to be a lot better than what he is.
Whoa, stop.
What do you?
They had this game. They just had a blocked field goal.
I
I
know.
don't. They got the new offensive coordinator in, and their offense looked better. I don't know if you watched this game, but
I did not get to watch this game.
it looked a lot better. They simplified it. Caleb Williams, he did not have a bad day. I know they lost, but he had 230 yards passing. He had 70 yards rushing yards. If he's going to rush the ball like that, it's going to be a lot better of an offense. And I don't know. DJ Moore finally showed life. I think these are guys that you're going to be able to at least play now. It was looking like you couldn't even play DJ Moore, but this week he had 7 catches for 62 yards. They got him way more involved. So I just wanted I don't want to throw the Bears players away because they're good players, and if this offense can build on what they did this week, I think they can be guys that you can play. And I played Swift as well, and he was sucking until that long touchdown run late in the game. So it's whatever. I'm not bitter about it.
It's in the past. It's in the past, Matt. It is what it is. I did want to say about this game though, Matt. You called this, and I want to throw it out there. And I'm loving that this is correct. Josh Jacobs has been a dog, dude. I'm talking. He's been getting in the end zone. He gets the workload. We knew this. We knew he'd get to run the ball because that's just he thrives off that. But he's turned it into something. Even in the passing game, this has kind of been something I did not expect. Was that he'd be involved in the passing game? 4 for 5, 58 yards. Got a receiving touchdown a few weeks ago. But he's finally looking. He's a top 10 running back.
Yeah, I definitely would have traded for him, but he's obviously on your team. And
I need him.
anyways, put that aside. He's a good running back, and
Yeah.
he's finally on a good team, a good offense, and with how good this passing attack is for the Packers, he's going against light boxes, so he's gonna have great success on the ground, and they're involving him heavily in the passing offense, which you brought up, and it almost seems like he's gonna get a touchdown every single week. So I I love that I'm right, but it sucks that you have him.
Yeah.
But he's going to be a good running back for the rest of the year, and he is a top 10. He could sneak into the top 5. So I would definitely keep your eyes out on him. He's going to have a great rest of the season.
I would love for that to be true, honestly, for him to continue to just ball out. I think their schedule gets a little easier as they go as well. So, all right. We'll do this last game here only because I know we didn't talk about the Chiefs. We don't want to talk about them when they lose, right? Although they had a decent game, it kind of sucks that they didn't pull through for Chiefs fans, I guess. But I wanted to talk about this just because I love to hear it. Mr. Bo Nix and the Broncos whooped up on the Atlanta Falcons. I know we talked about it earlier, but let me just give you the stats real quick because I'm on the train. I'm riding. Okay. 28 for 33, 370 yards, 4 touchdowns, 2 carries, and 5 yards against the Falcons defense that I actually thought was good. Okay, I thought they had it together at least a little bit, right? Their secondary was decent. AJ Terrell's out there, right? You know, few things like that. I thought this was going to be a pretty good game. Didn't think it was going to be a massacre from the Broncos here. Javonte Williams even got a little bit of work in there and looked good. But the top receiver was Lil Jordan. Lil Jordan Humphrey, huh? How about that? I mean, this was just a crazy game. Cortland Sutton is a guy to be looking out for out there, looking good. But are you on the Falcons side? Are you just done with B. John? I mean, to me, I would be so mad where I drafted him, how he's kind of been up and down and just kind of not what he should be, right?
Okay, I was with you until that point. He has been good the last like 5 weeks. He
Yeah,
just had a bad game this time. The you know he's been good, so I don't want to hear that. But this was an absolute just rout. This was a
bad.
no one expected this. I did bet on the Broncos to win, but
Good.
I don't think anyone expected this kind of game.
Mm-mm.
Bo Nix, I just stuck my foot in my mouth. I guess he 28 completions on 33 attempts. That's great. He
Yeah.
had 4 touchdowns. He rushed the ball as well. He he's a good quarterback, and we were kind of talking about this off the podcast. I don't think he offers the same ceiling that like Josh Allen and Lamar Jackson, Patrick Mahomes, they all offer, but his floor is high. Sean Payton schemes things up for him to where he can kind of get going throughout the game, and I just he's going to be a good quarterback. And I hate saying it because he's in the Chiefs division, and then
Yeah.
you got Harbaugh as well, who's been phenomenal for the Chargers. But this is a team with a great defense, a good offense. Cortland Sutton is coming alive. He's been great for the past 4 weeks. Um, the only bad thing about the Broncos is their rushing attack. You never know who it's going to be. We kind of thought it was going to be Audric Estime. He only had 6 carries this game for 16 yards, and then Javonte of all people. We thought he was done. Here he comes again. He has the best week out of the running back room. But as far as Cortland Sutton goes, you can play him every week. Bo Nix, you can play him every week. The running backs are just a little more murky.
I love that my boy Bo Nix is doing what he does. And I wish Avery was here to hype it up with me.
I don't even know why he's your boy.
Hey, I hated him when he was at Auburn.
That's what I'm saying. I don't understand.
I couldn't stand when he came and played us, and he just looked all cocky out there like he knew what he was doing. And then we played him when he was at Oregon, and we whooped him, and it felt good. But I don't know. I think for me, I like a guy that is like the underdog. And this quarterback class this last year was like massive. And he was kind of one of those guys. Him and JJ McCarthy, I was kind of excited for both of them. I think JJ McCarthy would have looked real good this year too, to be honest with you. Even Drake May, I've been kind of excited about him. But Bo Nix was one of those guys I was like, he's on a bad team. Sean Payton, he schemes things so well for guys. I think of like a Drew Brees, right? Drew Brees made him who he is.
uh,
I'm not saying he's anywhere near Drew Brees, right? But Bo Nix he has a lot of experience in college. He can come in and at least orchestrate an offense. And that's what Sean Payton wants. So I think it's the perfect fit for him, you know. It'll only make him better.
yeah, you're right. This was a great quarterback class that came in. I know Caleb's had his struggles, but he looked good at some parts during the season. We obviously know Drake May has came on and he's looked better. Jaden Daniels has looked great. He's kind of slowed down since the ribs injury, but he still looks good. And I was gonna even further your point. Bo Nix has crept in on the offensive rookie of the year.
That was my next
So
question.
yeah, I think he's like plus 400 right now. So he is getting close. Jaden Daniels like minus 150, I think. So it's a close race right now. If Jaden's I think it's going to end up who has the best record because they're going to be pretty similar as far as statistics go. Bo Nix is actually beating them in touchdowns right now. I think it's really going to come down to record. So if Bo Nix and the Broncos can keep winning, he has a chance of winning offensive rookie of the year, which I didn't think was coming. I should have known. Sean Payton's a great coach, as much as I dislike him.
Right.
And then he's an older quarterback coming into the league, so you knew he was going to be ready for it. He started off so slow, and I didn't expect him to become the player he is. But all props to him. He's played good.
Yeah. I kind of hope he gets offensive rookie of the year. Jaden Daniels, I'm excited for him too, though. So we'll see how that goes. But what a year, huh? What a year football, baby. It's been
It's been a
crazy.
good one.
I'm excited for us to look back at the draft and see how we would do it. May have to do a redraft here soon, maybe.
Yeah.
We're late in the
Yeah.
league.
It's going to be really interesting this upcoming class because there's a bunch of quarterbacks that no one really knows who's the best one coming in, and
And
it's going to
Carson,
be Carson Beck. He looked good last week. He looked fantastic, but before that, you know better than anyone being a Georgia fan, he was looking pretty bad. And then
I honestly, I was sitting there watching him play, and I was like, put him on the bench. I'm done
yeah,
with this dude. I was so mad because a guy that we hyped up is throwing pick after pick after pick when we should be up in a game. It just, but yeah, yeah,
he's got all the talent in the world. It's just, he was struggling bad.
it was
And
bad.
then Shadur Sanders, he's kind of a question mark. I mean, Colorado's not playing great competition. Then you got Cam Ward out of Miami. He he's a little bit like Patrick. His fundamentals are terrible. He's athletic. I don't
Yeah,
There's not much else to say about it. He reminds me a lot of Anthony Richardson, really raw, and
yeah.
I don't know. It's a real wild card on who's going to be the best quarterback out of that class. That's why I think a lot of teams are just going to go defensive or
Big
receiver.
defensive class coming up, though. I will say that.
Yeah, there's a bunch of good edge rushers coming in. So
Mikael Williams,
yeah,
to say one.
I don't know. It's going to be an interesting draft because none of these quarterbacks are really pulling away from each other. So it'll be interesting. You got Dylan Gabriel out of Oregon.
I was
He's
about to say
looking good. So it's going to be an interesting one. It's really going to come down to who goes to the best organization and
the
environment.
the BYU quarterback looks good too. I mean, there's guys that
Yeah, but then they had a terrible loss to Kansas.
they did lose to Kansas. That is
Dude,
true.
it's just it's so weird. College football it's getting weird
It's
with how the playoffs have extended. So there's going to be more teams. I really don't know who's going to win. It maybe Texas, maybe Georgia, maybe Alabama. You never know.
as long as it's Georgia. Even Ashton Genty, dude, he's a top pick. If he goes to the draft, dude, you got to pick this guy up immediately.
That's another weird one because Boise State's not playing these great teams, and he's getting 35 carries a game. So
That's fair too. You know what?
it's it's just I don't get me wrong. He's a great running back.
Dog.
It's one of those things where you don't know if it's a product of who they're playing, and I don't know. It'll be interesting to see.
False hope, huh? Maybe. We'll have to do a draft episode for the future for Dynasty.
Yeah.
Well, we have hit our time today. I know we didn't go through every game as usual, but we got through a majority and a lot of good games. So we'll look into next week. We should be back here Thursday night. Hopefully, we'll see what it looks like. We've been wishy-washy, but we're here today, and we'll be back again sometime soon. So we hope you have a great rest of your week. We thank you so much for tuning in, and we will see you very soon.
Go Chiefs, baby.
They did lose.